Okay. Start. Om Vakratunta Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighnam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvara Saraswati Namastubhyam Radhe Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhirbhavatame Sada Gurave Sarvalokanam Vishaje Bhavaroginam Vidaye Sarvavidyanam Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Ishvaro Gururadveti Murtibhedavibhagine Yomavadvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You all can repeat after me. Vasudevendra Yogindram
Vasudevendra Yogindram
Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Mumukshunam Hitarthaya
Mumukshunam Hitarthaya
Tattvabodho Vidiyate
Tattvabodha Vidiyate
Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampannadhikarinam
Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampannadhikarinam
Moksha Sadhana Bhutam
Moksha Sadhana Bhutam
Tattva Viveka Prakaram
Tattva Viveka Prakaram
Vakshyamaha
Vashyamaha
Sadhana Chatushtayam Kim
Sadhana Chatushtayam Kim
Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha
Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha
Iha Mutrartha Phalabhoga Viragaha
Iha Mutrartha Phalabhoga Viragaha
Shamadi Shatka Sampattihi
Samadhi Sattva Sampattihi
Mumukshutvam Cheti
Mumukshutvam Cheti
Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha
Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha
Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma
Nitya Vastu Ekam Vivekam. Wait a minute.
Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma
Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma
Tad Vyatirittam Sarvam Nityam
Tadvyatiriktam Sarvam Anityam.
You also can say Tad Vyatirittam Anyat Sarvam Anityam. That is also Ayam Eva Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha
Ayam eva Nitya Vastu Vivekaha
Viragakaha
Viragakaha
Iha Svarga Bhogeshu Icharahityam
Iha Swarga Bhogeshu Icharahityam
Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi Ka.
Shamadhi-shatka sampatti ka.
Shamaha Dhamaha Uparatihi.
Shamaha damaha uparatihi.
Titiksha Shraddha Samadhanam Chaiti.
Titiksha shraddha samadhanam cheti.
Shamaha Kaha.
Shamaha kaha.
Mano Nigraha.
Mano nigraha.
Okay, now we can mute your mic. Shamaha Kaha. What is Shamaha? Shamaha is defined as Mano Nigraha. Shamaha is mastery over mind. We have seen Shama in the last class, but we will see some more points in Shama. Then we will see Dhamma. So Shamaha, when you translate this Mano Nigraha as mind control, it is that translation, mind control. It leads us to the thinking of suppressing the mind. Suppression of mind and mastery over mind, both are entirely two different things. They are not synonymous. We must know the difference between these two. A suppressed mind will always wait for the right occasion to rise, and once the chance arises, it will take you for a ride. A suppressed mind is a slave mind. It can explode any day and turn your life upside down. It can lead to other mental complications. Suppression, it implies that still the mind is your master. You are the servant of your mind. So control implies that you are trying to veins of the mind chariot tightly all the time. It's a tough job. It is exhausting thing. Whereas mastery over mind implies that the mind will not do anything without your will. The mind will not do anything without your permission. It will always wait for your order. And once it gets the order, it will faithfully execute it. Mastery over mind means you are the master. The mind is the servant. It means the mind is doing what it's supposed to do. That is the mastery over mind. In suppression, you don't study the ways of the mind. You whip the mind all the time. The mind is hurt. So the mind will take revenge on you as though it is another conscious being in you. Whereas in mind mastery, you have clearly studied the mind and you know how to direct it in the right direction to accomplish what you want in life. In fact, our whole culture, our whole tradition, our daily religious routines and practices, they're all aimed at mastery over our mind. In suppression, there is no support of mind for you. Whereas in mastery, you don't need the support of your mind. Remember, mind is not an enemy. Therefore, you don't need to suppress it. You don't need to conquer it. There is no conquest. It's all about training. It's about training the instrument, the mind, to serve our purpose. In fact, the mind is doing what it is. We should get trained how to use it. It is like driving a car. So you should know the controls and learn to drive the car if you want to reach your destination. Is the car getting trained or you? Car is an instrument. Therefore, you should get trained. Car is just a mechanical device. You need to know the controls and a bit of mechanism to drive the car. Whereas here, in the mind is conscious. It is also an instrument. It is conscious because of you. And you must learn to use it. You get trained to use the mind because mind is an instrument. Using it without getting trained, it's like piloting the aircraft without getting trained. So, training the mind is very training. You get trained and use the instrument mind. That is important. There are various mental disorders, various types of mental disorders, like the bipolar disorder, the personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, psychotic disorder, anxiety disorder. There are so many types of disorders, mental disorders are there. If you see, for every mental disorder, there is a corresponding physical disorder. So therefore, there is no physical health without mental health. Even from the viewpoint of physical health, we need to have certain mastery over our mind. Mental health is required. People with serious mental health conditions, they are at high risk of experiencing the chronic physical conditions. So at least for the sake of physical health, we need to take care of our mental well-being. Therefore, it is all the more required to lead a disciplined, regulated life of spiritual growth. That is Dhamma. In fact, it is worth spending one whole life in gaining mastery over mind, rather than indulging in, rather than suppressing it. Mind is an instrument. It is a karanam. It is meant for knowing. It is meant for remembering, smaranam. It is also for entertaining emotions. Because it is instrumental in knowing, it is called an antakaranam. Antaha means inner. Karanam is instrument. So it is inner instrument, antakaranam. Without the mind, you cannot know anything. Mind is an instrument, a karanam, through which we know. Like the eyes are the karanam, through which we see. Ears are the karanam, the instrument through which we hear. But the eyes, ears, and all the other karanam cannot function themselves without being backed by the mind. Only when the mind is there, eyes are eyes. Eyes can see. Only when the ear is backed up by the mind, ear will be ear. It can do its function. Therefore, so you come to recognize something only with the help of mind. With all your sense organs, you come to recognize something only with the help of mind. And therefore, mind is also a karanam. It is a antakaranam. Mind is also the seat of all the emotions, as well as the seat of knowledge. Therefore, there is an emotional mind, there is a cognitive mind, there is a recollecting mind. Because mind is a storehouse of data, the knowledge, memory. Therefore, it is a recollecting mind. Now, if a person is disturbed, bothered, who is bothered? Who is disturbed? Really speaking, it is the person that is bothered, not the mind. Not the mind that really bothers, because mind is just an instrument. But the mind seems to play a role in botheration. How? In creating certain emotions like, take for instance, fear. Fear is for the person, not for the mind. Please understand, fear is for the person, not for the mind. The person is afraid and the mind informs him. The mind reflects his emotion. Not that the mind is afraid. Therefore, the person is afraid. The poor mind is unnecessarily blamed. It is a person who is afraid, and therefore there is an emotion called fear. It is the same for all emotions like anxiety, hatred, compassion, love. There are emotions like compassion, love, empathy, which the mind reflects. Compassion only reveals that the person is compassionate. The emotion compassion, it informs that the person is basically a compassionate person. Therefore, in understanding emotions, we always have to include the person. If we exclude the person, the mind it will become a whipping boy for all our emotional issues. An emotion is nothing but me. When you view from the standpoint of the mind. With reference to an emotion called compassion, I am compassionate. Because I am compassionate, there is compassion. Because I am loving, there is love. It is not the other way around. It is not that because there is love, I become loving. But rather, because I am loving, there is love. So too, in the same way, because I am frightened, there is fear. Because I am agitated, there is agitation. Because I am anxious, therefore there is anxiety. If that is so, then why do we separate the mind and then whip it all the time? Neither do I have to whip myself nor the mind. I am what I am because of certain laws. So, whenever we talk about the mind, we have to be highly responsible, not the mind. Mind is just an instrument. It's always good. It does its job. If you are anxious, the mind presents anxiety for you. But the mind doesn't cause you anxiety. The mind is not a threat. The mind is just you. It just reflects your emotions. You are the person. You are the affected person, the disturbed person. And the mind gives an indication that you have to pay a certain attention in some areas that you can resolve all those emotional issues with yourself. All the emotions like this anxiety, depression, anger, which arise in the mind, it reveals a person. It is not that the person experiences the emotions of the mind and becomes the corresponding emotional person, but the mind reveals the emotions arising in the person. The person is nothing but a bundle of emotions which he carries from the past experiences. If anger is there, I must understand that there is already an angry person. There is already an angry person in me who manifests in the form of anger. It is a mind that really tells us exactly what the person is. It is a mind which tells us to what emotion the person is given to. That mind is pointed out as Mano Nigraha, not the person, because we understand the person through the mind alone. There are varieties of emotions which we have, not to our liking, or for that matter to anyone. I don't like myself being given to anger. I don't like myself being anxious. I don't like myself getting frightened. So how are we going to gain a resolution of this? Though there are many methods, one common thing is that we have to accept the emotion. If I am frightened, I am frightened. Thinking that I should not be frightened, it's not going to help me. Or the idea that I should not have been frightened is also not going to help me. The notion that I should not be frightened or should not have been frightened only, it confuses the whole situation. The mind is just an indicator of the person. The mind should be available for my understanding of things. The mind should be available for pursuing my goals. The mind should be available for contemplation, dhyana. That availability is exactly what is called shamaha. The subject matter of Vedanta, being myself, is me, and because it is me, I have to deal with myself. Because it is me, I am nothing but a bundle of emotions. I cannot bypass emotion. There is no bypassing, because I have to deal with myself. In bypassing a problem, we are not bypassing the problem really. We are bypassing in solving the problem. It means what? There is no solution. Therefore, shamaha is complete availability of the mind for pursuing our goals, our purushartha. It is not that the mind should become blank, but rather the mind, you make the mind available for you. That is shamaha. When I sit in contemplation, the mind should be available for me. When I study a book or when I read an article, the mind should be available for me. When I study Sanskrit grammar, the mind should be available for me. So when I sit and listen, the mind should be available for me. When it is available for me, then why do you bother about the mind? The mind is serving you. The mind is a servant. It's serving you. Sometimes it is cognitively available for you, but sometimes it disturbs you. It looks like the mind disturbs you, but in fact, it is already a disturbed mind. Already your mind is disturbed, and therefore you want to get rid of the disturbance. For instance, the disturbance which is already in you, an old disturbance, it can manifest in the form of fear. The fear which was locked up inside, which was buried underneath, it manifests. That fear, it gets released. We have to understand this situation very clearly. The more we understand, the more Shama we will command. The fear, for instance, you can look at the fear as a fear released. It is a fear released rather than a fear gained. Similarly, you can look at anxiety as an anxiety released rather than an anxiety gained. If you look at anxiety as a new gain, then naturally you are going to conclude that you are anxious. It means that you don't understand the piled up anxiety in you is wending its way through recognizing it. You should let all the anxiety go, all the old pain go, let all the old hatred, jealousy, and whatever that we don't want, which is lying underneath, all should go. So, by exhibiting these emotions, we are letting it go. We are letting it go. We are releasing those emotions. We are not gaining. They are going away from you more than coming, especially when you address the problem. So when you are not addressing the problem, you don't know what is happening. When you are depressed, that's all. In the Vedanta, in the study of Vedanta, we are addressing the problem because we are the subject matter. We are looking at ourselves. So naturally, when you look at ourselves, all these emotions, it should come out. It will come out. The more you are able to look at all the emotions with a sense of surrender, the more Shama will be there. Surrender, Sharanagati. Sharanagati to what? Sharanagati to Ishvara, Parameshvara. Parameshvara means which includes the Ishvara, which includes the order, the whole order, including the psychological order. That order is Ishvara. This regarding Ishvara and the order, we will discuss in detail later. That's an important topic. It's a separate topic. We will discuss it later. So, through all our daily prayers, Dainandina Prarthana, through our meditations, our Upasana, and our Japa, our duties, regular daily duties, whether it is Nitya, Naimittika Karma, through all this, what we do is we take care of the mind. By continuously doing all those things, we make the mind available for us. The availability of the mind, that is what is called Shamaha. There is mental time available. When mental time is available, naturally you will have physical time. If mental time is available, physical time will accommodate always. Mental time is not available for some people because their mind is too busy. It's too busy. It means it is not available for them. Previously, people were leading their religious life. So therefore, it was very easier for them to command Shama. They were doing Nitya Naimittika Karma. They were regular in doing Japa. They had led a very disciplined life. Therefore, more or less, the mind was available for them. In leading a religious life, one finds a certain bonding with Ishvara, Parameshvara. And in that bonding, the person can relax and resolve all the emotional issues. As I said before, this is an important topic which we will be discussing in detail at the right place. But you understand now, all the religious disciplines which we have in our culture, it is for developing this Shama. If one leads a religious life seriously, then the Shama naturally will take place. Shama will be there. Shama is complete availability of the mind for you to accomplish your life goals, Purushartha. And for moksha, it is all the more required. Now, the disciple asks the next question. Damaha kaha. You can repeat after me. Damaha kaha.
Damaha kaha.
Chakshuradi bhagyendriya nigraha.
Chakshuradi.
Okay. Chakshuradi, chakshuhu adi Chakshuradi
Chakshuradi.
Bhakhendriya
Bahyendriya.
Nigraha.
Nigraha.
Actually, it is one word. Chakshuradi Bhagyendraya Nigraha. Okay. Fine. You can now mute your mic. What is Damaha? Damaha, Kaha. So, Damaha is masculine, therefore Kaha is Shamaha Kaha, Damaha Kaha. It's a very simple question. Damaha Kaha. Chakshuradi Bhagyendraya Nigraha Damaha. That is Chakshuradi Bhagyendraya. Mastery over the external sense organs such as eye, etc. Chakshuku Adi. Right? Mastery over the external Bhagya Indriya. Therefore, external sense organs. Mastery over sense organs as well as organs of action, both. That is what here, Bhagya Indriya. Organs of action or sense organs, organs of knowledge. We will be saying what are they in detail later. It will be covered in Tattvabodha itself. We will see that later. Now here the author says Chakshuhu Adi Bhagyendriya Nigraha. Chakshuhu. Chakshuhu means eyes. Chakshuhu eyes. Adi. Chakshuhu Adi. Adi is etc. What is this etc. Adi? What does it mean? What does it bring? Adi. It will bring the members of the same jati, same species. Jati means family. Here Chakshu Adi. Here Adi means not lion, tiger, dog, goat. No. Adi, when you say Adi means that Adi Padat, it will bring the members of the same family. For example, if you say Sadhana Chatushtayam, it includes Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampattihi, Mukshutvam. You cannot say Sadhana Chatushtayam includes Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampattihi, Mukshutvam Adi. There is no Adi. Mukshutvam is the last one in Sadhana Chatushtayam. Therefore, nothing is left out after Mukshutvam. Therefore, no Adi. But here Chakshu Adi means what? Adi Padat, that is going to come the other Indriya, which is not mentioned, which is understood. Similarly, when you say the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, space, you cannot say the 5 elements are earth, water, fire, air, space, etc. You cannot use etc. This loose use of etc. is due to lack of damaha. This looseness is lack of damaha. What you say, you mean it. You say something and afterwards you say, I didn't mean at all. Sometimes you do say something without saying the other meanings possible. Then you can say, I did not mean. That is okay. That is not lack of damaha. But when you say something and afterwards you say, I didn't mean it, then it is lack of damaha. So therefore, damaha here is being alert. Alert with reference to sense organs starting from chakshu. Chakshu is eyes. So damaha is management of sense organs. Shamaha is managing the mind. Damaha is managing the sense organs. See, this Shamaha and Damaha, it is not only the definition, we must know what it is in detail. That is why I spent the whole one class in dealing with Shama and now dealing with Dhamma. It is not just knowing the definition, it is knowing and leading the alert life. That is what it's all about. So, now Dhammaha is managing the sense organs. Our scriptures, scriptures, they don't believe in suppression. Any form of suppression, it is always dangerous because it has the potential to explode either now or later. So by management, we mean intelligently directing the sense organs, intelligently channelizing them. We should not allow the sense organs to go wherever they want. We should direct them to go where we want, where we decide to go. So it is like damming a river. If the dams are not constructed, what will happen to the water? The water resources will go to the ocean and it will be a waste. So by constructing a dam, we will be saving the huge water resources so that the same water can be channelized to for irrigation purposes to areas that we want. We can channelize them. Similarly, here also, Nigraha means not allowing the sense organs to go wherever they want, but deciding to send them the direction where we want. For example, when a student comes to the class, his ear should be directed towards what the teacher teaches. But if sense organs are not cooperative, he will be physically present, but he will not hear. If his ear and can hear, then it means he has Indriya Nigraham. Now, why do we insist upon proper direction of sense organs? Why do we say sensory management is required? There are several reasons. One reason is that our mental condition is dependent on our sense organs, because sense organs are alone at the gates. They are the gates are the gatekeepers. They are the doors for the external world to enter our mind. They decide which part of the world, which sound must enter us, which form must enter us, which smell must enter us. So what enters our mind is determined by the sense organs. And if these organs are not properly managed, anything and everything will enter our mind, and that will create a problem. All the external things, external objects, which are not conducive for our spiritual welfare, can enter our mind, and it can create a lot of disturbances. Therefore, we need to have a check. We need to manage them. Whatever can disturb our mind, for such things, we should have a strict policy, no admission policy. We should put no admission. The sense organs acting as the door should be shut down, should not allow those things to enter our mind, and that is called tamaha. Indriya means organ. It is Indriya is neuter gender. Indriyam, Indriye, Indriyani. So Indriya means organ. There are two sets of Indriyas. Indriyani. One is Antarindriyam. Antarindriyam or Antarindriyani. Bhagavachanam. Antarindriyani means inner organs. And the other one is Bhagirindriyam. Bhagyendriyam. Bhagyendriyani. External organs. Antarindriyam is mind, which we have seen in detail under Shama. Here it is with a reference to Bhagyendriyam. Bhagirindriyani, Bhagyendriyani. External sense organs. Bhagyendriyani is also of two sets. One is organs externally available for perception. That is one set. The other set is the organs which are externally available for action. One is Jnanendriyani and the other one is Karmendriyani. So Bhagyendriyani is divided into two sets. One is Jnanendriyani, other one is Karmendriyani. The sense organs are like the inlets, and action organs are the outlets. So there are 5 organs of action. With reference to them also, we should have a mastery over it. The sense organs are just instruments. They should listen to what I say. I should not listen to what the sense organs dictate. For example, the tongue. Tongue should not dictate me what I should take. Then I become the slave of the tongue. I should eat the tongue should eat what I ask it to eat. I cannot command the tongue to taste differently what it touches. No. But I have the power with me to make it taste and eat even when the food is bitter, like Karela, which most of us don't like it. I remember Swami Shivananda says, even if you don't have anything delicious to eat, and if you have only rice soaked in water, you should train yourself to eat it even with no salt, without any repulsion. That is the Nigraha. Similarly, the eyes should see what I ask to see. Eyes feel like seeing something tempting. Ears feel like hearing something tempting. I should be able to say no, no to the eyes, no to the ears. That is called mastery over sense organs, called damaha. Okay? Now, how to control the eyes, how to control the ears, how to control the other sense organs? Should I close my eyes when I see something bad? Should I plug my ears when I hear something bad? Damaha is not closing the eyes, not having the earplugs in the ears. The job of eyes is to see. Eyes simply see. Ears will let you hear the sounds. They are simply reporters. They have intelligence. They are not intelligent. They don't ask you to go after the sense objects. They are just reporters. When eyes see a saree shop, they don't say go inside. When you see a latest model mobile phone in the shop, they don't ask you to go and buy immediately. Sense organs don't say that. You decide and go after it. Bhagavan Krishna says in the 5th chapter of the Gita, Bhagya Sparsheshva Saptatma Vindatyatmani Yat Sukam Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukam Akshayam Ashnute Sparshan Krutva Bhagir Bhagyan Chakshushchaivantare Bhruvoho Pranapano Samo Krutva Nasabhyantara Charino. 27th shloka, this Sparshan Krutva Bhagir Bhagyan. This is an important shloka. This is the shloka with which we in the ashram we start our meditation. Somebody teaches meditation. Sparshan Krutva Bhagir Bhagyan. Here the Bhagavan Krishna says, this Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. All these sense objects are external. They are external. So keep them external. You don't bring them inside. But what happens? They get internalized. We bring them inside and they get internalized. Keep the external things external. But the problem is we always internalize all the external vishayas. Sense organs are good reporters. They are faithful reporters. They report what they perceive. They are not like our NDTV reporters tracing the data. Sense organ reports sense objects. But what happens? Sense objects create certain fancies in us. In fact, it is not a sense object that create fancies. It is our fancies for sense objects which are stored inside. It get triggered to come out. Fancies means a kind of desire, a situation that will tend to desire something. Everyone has got a lot of fancies, but we don't go after them. As you walk on the market street, you see a lot of boys and girls and you want to marry every one of them, but it is a fancy, you don't go after them. Satsangascha vivekascha nirmalam nayanadvayam yasya nasti naras sondaha katam nasyat amargadaha. The person who don't have these two eyes, what are they? One eye is the satsanga, the company of the noble people. The other is viveka. The person doesn't have these two eyes, then how can he not tread the wrong path? How can he not tread the wrong path? Therefore, do not submit to any kind of external stimulus and think before going after what your senses report on the sense objects. We should use the jnana chakshu, not the external chakshu. Use the jnana chakshu. The clarity in thinking, that knowledge is the jnana chakshu. Whatever physical chakshu, physical eyes report is about, it gives a data about the object. But use your jnana chakshu, the knowledge, whether to go after it or to restrain from going after it. We always keep on internalizing many fancies. So senses are, as I told you, just mere reporters, and there is nothing to control. If at all something to control, you have to manage your fancies. So let us not go after the fancies set up by the senses. Let us not get trapped in the fancies, the imaginations. Sense organs bring in sense objects, and with those data we create fancies. Let the fancies remain fancies. That is what Bhagavan Krishna says. Let the external things remain external. Even though you feel like going after them, but you don't go after that. That is called Damaha. When you feel like eating more, even after you have finished your regular meal, you don't submit to that impulse. When you can say enough, even if you have the desire to enjoy more food, that is called Damaha. You have got certain say over it, to say no to it. That is Damaha. Urayet ashane nardam, tritiyam udakenatu, vayu sancharanarthaya chaturtam avasheshayet. This is a very good subhashitam. It says, fill your stomach half with solid food, and the third quarter for water. Leave the fourth quarter for the movement of air. In fact, stopping. Therefore, with reference to external objects, any external objects, when you say no to it at the right time, that is called Damaha. That is the mastery over your sense organs. When you are woken up in the morning, and still if you want to stay on the bed for some more time, say no. That is Damaha. So therefore, Damaha, it has to be practiced all the time. And Damaha, it has to be practiced when Shama is not there. This is another important thing. Damaha has to be practiced all the more when Shama is not there. When someone says something about you, your mind immediately wants to react to it. At that time, there is no Shama. Because your mind wants to react to it, there is no Shama. Then you require Dhamma. That Shama being not there, what you require is Dhamma. Because your mind already reacted. Therefore, Shama is not there. So what you need there? Dhamma. If Shama is there, then there is no need for Dhamma. When you lose Shama, then you must have Dhamma. I will explain this. Suppose you are angry. Now the anger has has entered you. Once the anger has entered, it means it's an indication that you don't have Shama. Lack of Shama. The anger shows that there is no Shama. I'm an angry person now. It's a fact. This expression of anger, of course, it is not going to be a pleasant experience for me, especially for the opponent. In anger, I cannot be reasonable. I cannot be rationally angry. In anger, my intelligence doesn't function. My buddhi doesn't function. The mind, which is the seat of emotions and buddhi, it is now totally occupied by the emotion anger. In anger, there is no space between me and the emotion, anger. My identification is complete with the angry person. The anger takes complete control of me. Therefore, there cannot be a reasonable or rational expression of anger. The very fact the rational person in me is hijacked by the emotional person, angry person. So what can we do in such a situation? In such a situation, what can we do is we can stop the conversation with the person. To stop the conversation with the person, I should discover in me a certain space which gives me to stop a conversation before the conversation turns to a verbal fight due to my anger. When somebody said something, I received it and got hurt, and that is internalization. Then I respond, which is anger. I want to say something. It indicates that I have missed Shama, lack of Shama. Now you bring in Dhamma. You don't express anything. You don't act. That is Dhamma. If you miss Shama, have Dhamma. That is the Bhagyendriya Nigraham. Suppose if the other person is angry, then what will you do? We have to draw a boundary saying that we will talk later. If the other person doesn't agree, you have to walk away, because even when you walk away, it may further anger the other person, but it is his problem. It is not our business. When I am angry, I should have the space within me to stop the conversation. I should have the freedom to stop the conversation. I should intelligently stop the conversation and tell the other person, I'm angry and I don't want to converse now. We should learn to develop it. That is what is called defining a boundary. At least at the level of talking, at the level of restraining the tongue for further uttering angry words and creating a bitter situation. Physically shutting it out, the expression of anger by stopping the conversation. That is Dhammaha. Anger, it is not a deliberate emotion. For that matter, any emotion is not a deliberate one. It just happens. Anger happens in me. For that mind is not the reason. Instead of doing research on the reason of anger, which we can do later, first we have to recognize the anger and try to resolve it. The only way by which anger can be resolved is only by expression, not by suppression, not by any other means. Here, Viveka also will not help. By saying that anger is not good, I should not get angry, it is not going to help me. Self-blame or getting to victim mode, it is not going to help me. Anger has already happened in me, and I should try to resolve it. Viveka, it is helpful only before the anger happens. Once the anger has happened, then we should try to resolve it. So Dhamma is an external expression in which the emotion is restrained. I stop the conversation with the person, and that is Dhamma. Though my mind agitated, there was a reaction in my mind, it indicates I don't have Shama, but at the physical level, I have restrained by stopping the conversation. I have restrained my tongue by uttering some angry words. That is the Dhamma. So Dhamma is an external expression in which an emotion is restrained. Shama is appropriate expression of emotions. If anger is there, then what is the appropriate expression? Swamiji used to say that you write it out, whatever your mind says, whatever you want to say, or you find a friend, or you talk to a friend, and let your heart pour out to him. Or he gives another thing. It may look like a joke, but it is not a joke. It is something serious one which Swamiji advises. He says that you take the towel, you wet your towel, you soak it in the water and wet the towel and beat the floor. That is one way of letting out your anger. The anger, we have to let it out. That we have to give a way for our emotions to go out. We should find the appropriate situation, occasion to let it go, and that is called the Dhammaha. So these are some of the methods which Swamiji openly advocates in the class. And he also says, don't read the book How to Control Anger and all those things. They're all just simple advices which won't work. So now if Shama is there, suppose if we have Shama, then we don't need Dhamma, because you control all your emotions at the mental level itself. Therefore, you don't need to have, not control, manage. You don't need to manage at the sense level. So when Shama is there, we don't need Dhamma. When Shama is not there, then we need Dhamma. That is why when the disciple asked, even in the Shamadhi Shakta Sampattihi, the first one is Shamaha, the next one is Dhammaha. That is why the question is, Shamaha comes first, Dhammaha is later. Dhammaha is mentioned after Shamaha. Therefore, now we understand that Dhammaha is appropriate expression of our emotions, appropriate behavior, being alert to what I do, being alert to my expressions. That is called Dhammaha. We go on doing a variety of actions in our life. When we are aware of what we do, then it is Dhammaha. Even when you use your hands and legs, use it very consciously. You can see some people shaking their legs or hands mechanically. I have seen in my class, students, they keep shaking their thighs. They're not aware that they are shaking their thighs, but they keep doing it. Every time I have to point out to them and ask them to stop it. So it clearly shows there is no Dhamma. So don't do anything which you are not aware of. That says that you don't have Dhamma. I'll give an instance, even an example. This is a common experience which we all experience. Even when you lock the door, when you lock your the house door, we get a doubt. Did I lock the door? When you lock the door, you are not aware of what you are doing. You have locked the door, but you are not conscious of locking the door. So when you go and again you come back to check up whether you lock the door or not. At the time of checking also, you are not conscious of what you are doing, because you are checking it mechanically. Then again you go back and think, did I check the locking? So this clearly shows that the lack of Dhamma. You do certain actions and it is purely mechanical. You are physically, you are physically present, you are mentally absent, and also because your mind is not there, naturally what happens, your sense organs will do the job mechanically. Because your mind is not there, the action will not be registered, and that clearly shows that you don't have Dhamma. Therefore, we should be more aware of what we are doing, more conscious of what we do, how much we talk, what we talk. So in all this, a certain alertness should be there, and that is called Dhamma. You are a conscious person. Be conscious of yourself. Be conscious of what you are doing. Then only you can get rid of that mechanicalness. The mechanicalness should go away. For that we need to practice Dhamma. If you ask how to get Dhamma, only by being alert. And also the same religious practices that which I mentioned in the previous class, which help one to get Shama, that is also the means for getting Dhamma. Any type of sadhana which you do, in which you say no to certain things, that is a religious discipline. That is nothing but Dhamma. For example, we don't take rice products in the night on the days we do Tarpanam, particularly this on Amavasya and all these days. That is Dhamma. Deliberately we have control over the food, what we take. Similarly, we fast on Ekadashi. We observe Maunam weekly once. So these are all the means for Dhamma. In the tradition, in our culture, they are all built in our day-to-day routine. In the form of the vratas, in the form of our festivals, in the form of religious disciplines. We don't know all those things why we do. But now we can see the place of everything in our life. They're all meant to get mastery over our mind, mastery over our senses. To gain the capacity to do things consciously, there is no alternative but to practice doing things consciously. Consciously talk, consciously eat, consciously walk, do things consciously. This abhyasa. Abhyasa is important, practice is important. We may be mechanical, but we should make deliberate efforts to do consciously. Only by doing it deliberately, we get an alertness. We live an alert life. So this abhyasa, this doing things consciously, that is very important. That is the only way by which we can practice Dhamma. That is the only way by which we gain the capacity to do things consciously. That is how Dhamma is gained. Now the next qualification is, the disciple asks a question. You can chant with me, repeat after me. Uparamaha kaha
Uparamakaha
Uparamaha, as I told, Uparamaha or Uparati both are okay. Uparamaha Kaha. The teacher answers Swadharma Anushtanam Eva. Swadharmanushtanam Eva. So the disciple asks the question, what is Uparama? And the teacher answers, Swadharmanushtanam Eva Uparamaha. Swadharma Anushtanam. Swa is one's own. Dharma is duties. Dharma is duties. So Swadharmanushtanam Eva Uparamaha. The more detail on Uparamaha we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.